Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days in 5 minutes. And coming up tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, of course, we're going to be talking about this storm in the eastern part of the United States. There's all sorts of warnings that are up. And we've also got some hefty weather going on in the southeastern part of the U.S., dealing with heavy rain, some severe weather, and thunderstorms. So we're going to cover all of that tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So, latest watches and warnings and advisories. We're seeing some addition to the winter storm warnings. I'm just going to make this map a little bit bigger so we can see it better. The areas now around New York City, Long Island, much of northern New Jersey, all under winter storm warnings, as well as Connecticut, Rhode Island, and eastern Massachusetts. Now, there have been some changes because we've seen, and this started yesterday, this slow shift to the south of this weather system. And as a result, we've seen some of the winter storm watches canceled up in the upper Hudson Valley, and they've gone to some winter weather advisories here on the northern fringe. But across much of central and northeastern Pennsylvania, we're looking at winter storm warnings. We have winter weather advisories now up for south central Pennsylvania, but winter storm warnings are up from Harrisburg westward. Wind advisories running from southern West Virginia down through the Carolinas and into Georgia. We also have flood watches up for parts of Alabama and Georgia here with the heavy rains that we had today, and also extending up into western North Carolina. Winter weather advisories from southern Missouri on through southern Kentucky, and then it turns northeastward from there. So, it's just a little bit convoluted with how this system is setting up, at least initially. We're kind of trying to follow things along. So, on the latest surface map, the center of this storm system is in northeastern Mississippi. It is going to be moving along, and it's going to start moving along at a faster rate as we get into the overnight hours of tomorrow. It's been dry in the Northeast. It's also fairly warm. Temperatures in upstate New York, for example, are in the 30s, but not downstate New York and across Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Down into Virginia, they're in the mid to upper 40s, and then you start getting into 50s as you go further south from there. There's no real Arctic air around, so we're really going to have to do this with the dynamics. And this has made the forecast just a little bit difficult to chew through. So here's what it looks like on the satellite. And of course, we've got that signature subtropical jet from the Pacific that's coming into the southeastern part of the United States and loading up. You have the rotation of the upper low moving through Arkansas and into western Tennessee and northern Mississippi. That's going to be the main driver of this. And to the north, we've got some clouds. There's an upper trough and cold front in the northern Great Lakes that's dropping southeastward. That is going to be part of this equation. In the west, we have some Pacific moisture streaming in that really isn't doing a whole lot as far as precipitation is concerned, but you can see how the radars here in the eastern part of the United States are fairly loaded up. We've got some heavy rains moving into North Carolina and South Carolina. Much of the heavier rains are done in Georgia, but we do have to watch this developing squall line to the west, crossing Alabama, and that extends northward up into south central Tennessee. And you can see that there's some heavy rains and thunderstorms back on the west side of this upper low that is moving eastward. So this has all got that signature of something important that's going to be happening. And WPC, in terms of the total precip amounts, looking at this band of 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half plus from Kentucky northeastward across Pennsylvania. And then there's a little bit of a lapse from New Jersey to southern New England, but still an inch and a quarter of precip there. And then it goes to an inch and a half plus in southeastern Massachusetts as that area taps the intensification of the storm as it moves out to the east. We see rain amounts diminishing across the south, but still up there in Florida with 1.5 inches or more for much of the state. And of course, the West Coast, especially in California, getting ready for another surge of heavy rains from San Diego all the way up the coast to Washington State, and particularly in coastal California from Los Angeles on northward. We're talking about several to many inches of rain. And in the Sierra Nevadas, it's probably going to be in the form of snow. So this is the probability from WPC for at least 8 inches, and I always say to use the 50% line as if you're going to make a forecast. Use the 50% line is where you're going to put your boundary for eight. And that cuts right across New York City and the North Shore of Long Island and the northern third of New Jersey to just south of Route 78, extending into eastern Pennsylvania and northeastern Pennsylvania, then goes northeast from there into northern Connecticut and up to about the Boston area. I think this is a fairly fair forecast. And when we go to the probability for at least four, we're seeing near 100% probabilities from northeastern Pennsylvania on up through southern New England and southeastern New England. The 50% line gets down to about Route 195 and extends south and west of there across southernmost Pennsylvania near the Maryland state line. Then it just jogs down into western Maryland and into northeastern parts of West Virginia. So, a couple of things here. We're watching the dynamics, which over the last couple of days, we've seen them actually shift a little bit further south. The strongest dynamics with this tomorrow morning will be over New York City and Long Island, central and South Jersey. Not all of these areas will be snowing at the time the dynamics are moving through, but the bottom line is that you have to get into those rich dynamics in order to create the dynamic cooling that's going to be necessary for the snows to accumulate. And then you can see that that area moves out as we go through the day. So that's really going to be the key to all of this. And we'll bring up the surface map so you can watch this move along. The low by this evening is in eastern Tennessee. It moves across southern Virginia. By 4 a.m., we've got some heavy snows breaking out across Pennsylvania into western Maryland. By 7 a.m., it's snowing in much of the northern half of New Jersey into southern New England. And you can see the low redevelops right off the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula. Again, that subtle southward shift. And as it moves eastward, it intensifies into a major storm as it moves south of Nantucket and Hyannis and passes southeast of Cape Cod, very close to what we call the benchmark, which is 40 north and 70 west. Notice that the northern fringe of this gets cut off fairly sharply. So you're going to go from nothing to 4 inches over probably a matter of miles. That's usually the case when we have these, strong storm systems that develop along the East Coast. So it's going to be a matter of who gets underneath what we call the comma head. If you look at the way this is structured here, the way the snow area is structured, I'm going to have to change the color here. I may not have time, but it makes that sort of a comma hook. So if you're under that, you're going to be getting snows at uh, 1 to 2, maybe even 3 inches an hour. The thing is that this is only going to last about 6 to 8 hours from start to finish as far as the accumulating snows. So uh, those um, those snowfall rates need to materialize in order for these forecasts to verify. Most of the models say that will be the case. We made our forecast now, basically made our bed. Now we have to lie in it, and we'll see where this goes. So tonight, the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We've got probably some more guidance that'll come in between now and 7:35 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll digest it. So please do join us, and we'll go through all of this from start to finish, and we'll see where it takes us. We'll see you tonight at 7:35 p.m.